Hello, hello, hello. Here we are again, another Monday night. Oh, I don't know what it is about Mondays. I always feel like I've really accomplished something when I get to this point. Oh, so the excitement has kind of been growing, at least for the dogs and for myself. Hi, Ashley. About what the topic for tonight is. I don't have a big, huge announcement, but I have something that I think is kind of exciting. Hey, Glenda, thanks for hopping on. I think it's kind of exciting. It's something that I've kind of been mulling over in my mind since last week, and I guess maybe even a little bit before that. Um, and those of you who have been in the Adventure social media coaching program that I've been a part of for any length of time will recognize the concept, but maybe you had not thought about applying this concept to other areas of your life. So I'm hoping that you'll get as excited as I have become. And I have a few days under my belt so I can share the experience with you and tell you how it's working for me and what I'm doing to make this concept apply to all areas of my life, not just social media. So, any guesses, Glenda? Do you have any idea what it might be with those hints? Hi, thanks for hopping on. Thanks so much. No idea? I know there's probably a delay. Well, we were just talking about this huge impact that can be had in our lives by just such a little tiny concept. And by actually commenting, well, that's good, but it's a little bit more specific than that, and it's not really applicable to using social media. Um, in our social media training, our coach, John Eric Mosler, often talks about making 1% changes. And in fact, we spent a good part of last month sharing some ideas of 1% changes. And I know you're thinking, okay, so how can that make a huge impact in my life? But the idea is there's a scientific theory that says, it's not a theory, it's actually a fact, that says if you make a 1% improvement every day, it only takes 70 days to get to 100%. And I know that doesn't make sense maybe at first, but think about it. If you do 1%, then tomorrow you're doing 1.001%, and the next day you're adding another 1% on top of your new total. And so by the time you get to 70 days, you're right at just about at 100. So I know this worked for me in helping me be a better friend and acquaintance and advocate and cheerleader for my friends on social media by using some techniques and some tools that I learned in social media coaching. And I also took it a step farther because I love the concept so much. And I've embraced this 1% concept by making some 1% changes in my life. Now, think about this. Keep in mind that what I said was every day, if you add 1%, it's a cumulative 1%. So that every 1% adds to what you did the day before, so that each one builds on the other. I don't know about you, but I've been on every diet there is out there. And I wake up and I say, okay, this is the date that I said I was going to start my diet. I'm going to change the way I eat. I'm going to change everything about the food that I consume, how much, what type, and I'm just not going to go back to my old habits. And it doesn't take very long. Maybe I can go a week, maybe two, maybe a couple months. But sooner or later, if I just cold turkey start a new thing, it's very hard to maintain it, isn't it? Take, for example, say you want to quit smoking. That's a big one for a lot of people. And even though not as many people nowadays smoke as used to, my husband and I were both smokers way back in the day. And cold turkey is very hard, partially because of the physical addiction that your body actually acquires. So, one of the suggestions that I read about a way to quit smoking, but not do it, try to do it all at one time and set yourself up kind of for failure, is how about if you just start journaling? Write down every time you have a cigarette. That can be your 1% for the first day. Don't change anything. Just keep track of every time you have a cigarette. And do that for a day or two. And then maybe pick one of those times that it might be possible for you to, instead of getting a cigarette, maybe you take a quick walk around the block without a cigarette. And then the next day, you do it again. And then after a couple days, you look at another time that you have a cigarette and say, maybe I can cut this out. So that you gradually are weaning yourself off. But not only are you weaning yourself off the cigarettes, you're substituting a behavior. So that it starts to become a new normal and a new habit for you. Hey, Elizabeth Collier, how are you? Does that make sense to anybody, or does that sound like it's just too crazy to work? Hi, Andrea. For me, it's worked really well. And I'll tell you the things that I have done in the last week or so. The 1% things I've done. And in and of themselves, they don't seem really big. Hey, Larissa. Hi, Irene. But by adding them to a 1% activity every day, I'm starting to see some subtle changes in my life. So the first thing I did was that I started getting up when the alarm actually went off. I stopped hitting the snooze alarm, and I've ended up with an extra 30 minutes every morning, which is kind of nice because that's my favorite time of day, on my deck with my coffee. Oh, good. Elizabeth, I'm so glad, because you never know if you're kind of off in left field or if people are thinking it's a good idea. So my 1% change the first couple days was to get up when the alarm goes off. And it was kind of funny because by actually doing that on Saturday, I set my alarm for an hour later thinking, oh, this is great. I didn't have to be rushing around in the morning. I'll sleep an extra hour. Well, I woke up and had to go to the restroom and started to pad upstairs, and I looked at my phone and I realized it was the regular time that I get up. So my body had just adjusted automatically to getting up at that time, with or without the alarm. But I do set my alarm every night so that I don't oversleep. Yes, I jumped out of bed. I usually get up at 5:30 or 5 o'clock. I set my alarm for 5 o'clock. And then I used to have my second alarm at 5:15, but now I don't need the second alarm because I just hop up. Hey, Kara. So the next 1% change, so I added to getting up when the alarm goes off every morning, is I have a glass of water every morning, even before my coffee. I read somewhere that when you do that, since your body is made up primarily of water, that when you do that, it feeds your brain and all of your cells, and it just kind of gets your body revved up for the day and get your brain kicked into higher gear. I've noticed that that's been the case. I just kind of feel better. You know, when I wake up, a lot of times I'm thirsty. And there's a reason for that, because our bodies need water, and we go, 6 or 8 hours overnight without any water, so it's no wonder. So I get up when the alarm goes off, and I have a big glass of water, and then I get my coffee and go out to the deck. And then I started taking probiotics again, just for my gut health, because I noticed that, I was getting a little sluggish in that department. We haven't been eating the best. We haven't been planning our meals. That could be another 1%. change. So I started a probiotic. So now I'm up to 1.1 da 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 percent. I'm adding these 1% changes. Then we have all these little islands in our parking lot at work. And so I've started parking one little treed island farther so that I have to walk 6 or 8 more parking spaces to get to the front door. And then, I actually started getting kind of excited about, oh, what can I do next? Then I started just doing really gentle stretches in the morning, just stretch out my muscles and to kind of just get me moving. Again, it gets your blood circulating. Your body just starts helping you out, and your body gets noticed. Hey, Ann, your body gets noticed that, okay, I'm awake. It's ready for me to get going. And I've just noticed some subtle changes. When I get to work, I'm not craving coffee. I still enjoy my coffee when I get to work. And I'm not exhausted before I walk in the door because I've fed my brain and my body water. I've had my probiotics. I've stretched a little bit. What I'm going to do tonight, my daughter will be really happy about this, is I'm going to plug my Fitbit back in. That's my 1%, plugging it in. I'm not going to try to make my step count tomorrow, but I'm going to do some steps and keep track of them. And I'm competitive enough that I like to see that number go up every day. So I know that will be another 1% change that I can make on a lot of days, is taking more steps and more steps and more steps. And so do you see how over the course of a week or 2 weeks or a month, how you can completely shift your mindset, you can get your body feeling better and actually wanting to support you in your daily activities? I really have noticed a change. And not to say I'm not tired sometimes when I get up, or not to say that I, always have a great night's sleep, but I've noticed I'm having more REM sleep when I'm doing just these few healthier things. I haven't even really changed the way I'm eating, but I thought of some other 1% things that I can do. I'm not going to throw myself on a diet. I'm going to eat more healthfully. And one of the things I'm going to try to do is at night after dinner, instead of having ice cream or cookies or something else that's really high in sugar and not good for me, I'm going to see if I can do like some fruit, some berries, something like that, and maybe with some yogurt, because that's still going to give me just enough sugar, I think, and I'll feel like I'm, having the sugar, but my body will adjust to that healthier sugar level. That's right. It's all about setting your mindset. And for me, because I've had success in the past with this 1% change in specific areas of my life, it just made sense to me that if I can just approach my whole life with these 1% changes and set myself up for success instead of failure, then I'm probably going to do a better job at reaching my goals. And I think that's going to be the case. So what do you all think about the idea of keeping a log? You could do that with food. If you wanted to just change out one thing, not necessarily give up a food, but maybe eat a little bit more healthfully. If you wanted to eat less. One thing that I had not been doing enough is a lot of times I would just eat my lunch at my desk. And it's not even necessarily that I was so busy, but like if I was in the middle of something, I wouldn't want to get up. And so before I know it, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I haven't been outside all day. And we are lucky enough, we have 2 covered little patio areas and there are a few benches out there. So I've tried to also make a point to go and just sit out there for 10 minutes, in the afternoons and just get some fresh air and some indirect sunlight, and just to kind of, give yourself a little change of atmosphere. And again, I'm not trying to walk around the parking lot 10 times, although that's one of the things now that the weather's getting a little cooler that I'll probably work toward. And we have a little park near my work, and it's actually right at the end of my parking lot. So I'm going to work my way back up to walking over to the park and walking around the lake that they have there. But I'm not going to beat myself up, though, that I'm not saying, okay, I didn't make it all the way to the park and around the lake today. I'm not going to try to force myself to do more than I'm comfortable with. Not to say that I'm not going to stretch myself, but I want to maintain this kind of 1% momentum. And what I know I'm going to find is that I'm going to want to do more and more. And I think as my mindset shifts and as I get in the habit of having these little successes, I'm going to feel successful. And so I'm going to be more challenged to continue to improve. So all this sounds really good. All this self-help advice, a lot of it's easier said than done, right? We've all read everybody's advice. That's right, Barbie, one step at a time. Because just like with the social media coaching that we had, you learn one concept, learn one, how to use one tool, one app, and master it, and then move on to the next one. If we do well at one thing, we have a better chance of doing well at the next thing because we have confidence, we have accumulative knowledge and experience. And I do know that that's true in social media, in other kinds of learning. I found that to be true. So some ways that we can enhance that those 1% changes are successful. Glenda, I have fat fingers sometimes on the little tiny keyboard on my phone, so I get it. One of the things that's helpful is if we set ourselves up, we set up our environment ahead of time. If we know that we have a tendency to keep hitting the snooze alarm, maybe move the alarm clock so you have to get out of bed to cut it off. That's a really easy way to make sure you get out of bed. And once you're up, you might as well stay up, right? So those are the kinds of things you plan ahead. You know what your stumbling blocks are, and you plan on how to remove them ahead of time so that you're more likely to succeed. It also, for me, I think it takes a lot of self-talk, you know. We have to talk to ourselves about the changes that we want to make, and write down, you know, these are the long-term goals I have, and these are the little itty-bitty steps that I can take towards meeting those goals. I know meditating is something that I want to do more of because my brain never stops. It just is always going. And when I did a little bit of meditating, just very light, easy, short little bouts of it, that I felt more relaxed. And there's a great app called Headspace that I have on my phone. And I've got an iPhone. I'm sure it's available for Android too. And it just talks you through just breathing and just relaxing your body. And it just, again, it just kind of helps you center. And you can do it. I do that, again, in the morning. You could, certainly do it at lunchtime or on a break. Or even, you know, if you knew you were going to be in the car, you don't want to close your eyes and that type of thing. But you could certainly listen to it and do the self-talk that this app has you do. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to start using my Fitbit. And one thing that my daughter did is we got ours linked up so that we could keep track of each other. And even though she's like way far ahead of me on the fitness department, it's kind of fun if you can buddy up with somebody and maybe not necessarily challenge each other, but have an encouragement buddy, accountability buddy. And you could do that with anything, but like the Fitbit makes it so easy to do that. And there are other apps for, so many apps, like for losing weight, you know, for activity level. So, nowadays everything's on your phone. You don't have to go buy any kind of special anything, which is really great. Let's see. There were a couple of other things that I just wanted to touch on. What do you all think? Does this sound like something that you think will work for you? That you can use some of these tips to make some 1% changes in your life that might be long lasting? I sure hope so. And I came across two articles online, and I will post the links. Andrea, yeah, it was much needed for me too. And these are, they're little bite-sized changes that we can make that won't stress us out too much. One of the articles is called 100 Small Changes That Can Improve Your Health. And I believe that is like mental health and physical health. Yeah, I do too, Glenda. Morning's my thing. Um, and then the other one is small ways you can improve your life. And I think that one is just like 16. But it's just some of it are the same ideas I had. But I liked them because um, they're not really preachy. They're not trying to get you to buy any products. They're just giving you ideas that you might be able to adapt to use in your own life. So I'm all about those 1% changes. I was an early believer in that because I know myself well enough to know that that's doable and that I'm more likely to do something that's not going to be so overwhelming. That's a word I don't like to use anymore because there's really no excuse for being overwhelmed, especially if we're meditating and getting up early and exercising, right? Anyway, that was my musings for this week, and I hope this was interesting and informative. Um, and like I said, I'll post the links to these two articles because I thought they were especially helpful. Um, and if you have any suggestions that you might want to share with us, some things that either what some 1% changes that you plan to make or some 1% changes you've already made and how you did it that might benefit anybody who checks back in the comments later, that would really be great because we can all help each other out that way. So thanks for taking a few minutes out of your Monday night. I always enjoy interacting with everybody. Oh, good. I'm glad you're encouraged. Thanks, Glenda. I love to help my friends and make more friends. So I've really enjoyed the time this evening. I hope you all have a great rest of your night and have a great week. And I will talk to you next week.